Welcome everyone, this is Zonta with Rebar Products. Today's video is on what's new in Revit 2023. This presentation video is strictly just the PowerPoint presentation. There are a lot of new enhancements and features in Revit 2023, and we will not be going over all of them, just some of the ones that I thought were very impressive. Please look forward to additional videos on what's new in Revit 2023 for point-specific enhancements. When we take a look at the new features and enhancements of the software, there are 6 areas that are improved: design productivity, simulation and analysis, interoperability, cloud and data, design optimization, and documentation efficiency. In the new features and enhancements section, the areas that are highlighted in red are the ones that I am showing. The ones that are not highlighted in red are the ones that have additional enhancements that it would take a very long time to go through PowerPoint presentation wise. So for this particular presentation under design productivity, we will look at measuring in 3D, picking a work plane, save placement for work plane based families, and so on. Under simulation and analysis, there is interactive solar studies, which I thought was very interesting. Under interoperability, we have Formit Pro in linked CAD formats, Formit Pro interoperability enhancements, and CAD file improvements. This is also not to say that under cloud and data and design optimization, those features and enhancements aren't important. I just wanted to showcase the ones that were particularly interesting. Under documentation efficiency, there's quite a few that we'll look at as well in the PowerPoint presentation. And you'll have to forgive me, but my background is actually coming from an architecture background. So most of the point-specific areas that I'm looking at are more architectural oriented and general discipline oriented, not necessarily specific structural or MEP. If you do want to look at some of those additional MEP and structural enhancements, just let me know. I can actually send you videos of those point-specific enhancements, so I don't have to worry about making them and making another PowerPoint presentation, those disciplines. So under design productivity, measuring in 3D. So now Revit has the ability for you to measure in 3D, snapping to any position in 3D without a work plane, working in orthographic and perspective, using the hotkey control to lock the measurement perpendicular to the start of a face. So very similar to, say, if you're in Autodesk Recap and you want to measure from one point perpendicular to the face of another. And then activate perpendicular snap to measure the shortest distance. So this is a very nice new feature that allows you to measure in 3D. I do know that the measuring commands were initially strictly only in the quick access toolbar and they weren't located anywhere else. So I'd like to see, I haven't looked at it either, but I'd like to see where the new measuring commands may be and whether when you're measuring in 3D, if there are any additional contextual tabs, panels, or options toolbars. Pick a work plane. So this one I did investigate a little bit, and I already created a video on my YouTube channel, so you can look at that as well. This allows you to pick any plane that you want to very quickly set the plane as being the current plane, so you can work on that plane. Maybe, for example, you want to create a wall sweep or some type of entity needs to be placed on that plane quickly and easily, you can do so. There are some limitations that I found out, so again, just watch that point-specific video that I made. Save placement for work plane-based families. So now Revit does remember the last work plane that you used in a project. So when you're placing families, it'll remember that position. In my honest opinion, this is more of a fix than necessarily an enhancement. But nonetheless, it's something that is valuable for you to work. Search functionality as well has been enhanced as in view reference parameters, and we'll try to take a look at that when we do the point-specific videos. Additional family types are now cuttable in section views. So there were some categories that you could not cut. A lot of people didn't like the fact that you couldn't cut furniture or plumbing fixtures, but now you can. So you can actually open up the family and put a check mark in the instance property where it says enable cutting in views, and it will allow you to cut that family. There are other additional categories that have been fixed, if you will, or set up to allow for cutting. And like I said earlier, so you have furniture, furniture systems, casework, specialty equipment, and plumbing fixtures. So it just looks more realistic moving forward. These other categories that they listed prior to this 2023 functionality, you had to use the section box within the 3D view to cut those contents. Adaptive propagation for rebar, having this new tool to propagate the rebar design to another host family quickly and easily. Sounds promising, so we'll see how it is when I actually get into the software. And then in the area of simulation and analysis, they have interactive solar studies now. So there is a contextual tab and panels in the ribbon when you work with your solar studies. So you can obviously, play the solar study. You can go to the previous keyframe. You can go to the next keyframe and so on. But you also have the ability to adjust the speed, sunlight intensity, shadow intensity, things like that. So, and then also obviously date and time and any presets. So this is more of a much more interactive toolbar, if you will, to help you in the ribbon to study your solar studies better. I think this is a nice addition, so we'll see how it is when I get into it. In regards to interoperability, we have Formit Pro and LinkedIn CAD formats. So what they're saying is that the AXM format file, it can now be brought into a linked CAD format. And then you can edit in the format button as well. So they're trying to set up the interoperability between Formit Pro and Revit to be better to include CAD files. And the interoperability enhancements allow you to update the 3D Sketch workflow, send to Revit as a CAD link, and send to Revit preview mode in Formit Pro as well. So hopefully if I get a chance, I'll try to set up a point-specific video on this workflow as well. CAD file improvements. You have the ability to link AXM, OBJ, and STL files in Revit. And I did find this out earlier when I made the video on the pickup work plane functionality, that new feature, because they were talking about how you can place a CAD file onto that plane that you're working with. And in reality, it depends on the file type. So here you have to make sure your file types are AXM, OBJ, and STL in order for you to use the new place at functionality within that dialog box. If you pick a different file type, you can't do this. A simple example would be if you were to try to place an image, which is a CAD file, onto the surface of a plane that you touch. Kind of doesn't work. Okay? You can supposedly position the CAD input on levels or named horizontal reference planes, which, yes, you can do that. So if you have a CAD file or other file types that are not AXM, OBJ, or STL, such as CAD files, DWF files, DGN files, you can place those on levels or named horizontal reference planes that you create. And then you can also enable cutting of the 3D CAD elements in that specific view, as long as you select it and you put a check mark in the instance property of that CAD file that's brought in. For documentation efficiency, there's quite a few. There's floor folding lines and split lines. So it gives you the ability to work with modifying sub-elements of a floor a little bit easier and better. They have new subcategories called folding line and split lines that you can turn on and off. You can also obviously control the visibility of those subcategories. and it says it supersedes the interior edges subcategory in previous versions, and you can convert your folding lines into split lines and vice versa. Conditional formatting for family and types are now capable. So you can visually identify parameters within a schedule. So for example, if you look at the schedule properties window and set up conditional formatting, you can do conditional formatting based upon family, type, and family and type. And so whatever condition you decide to put in there, depending on the family you're working with, you can color those backgrounds and make it more visible and easier to spot those situations. You have filter by sheet in schedule. So this is very nice. So if you have a very long schedule and you placed it on a sheet, you can filter by the sheet. So you can basically, it limits the list of the schedule that is displayed on that same sheet. And if you go into the filters tab of the schedule properties window, there's a little box that you can check that says filter by sheet. And that way it only shows the data of the schedule that pertains to the view that's on that sheet of paper. Displace elements in 2D views now, which is nice because we used to be able to, and we have the ability still to take your 3D model and maybe you have, let's say you're doing a wall section, a piece of a wall, and you've got a door and a window or a curtain wall, and you're looking at it in 3D and you want to displace it, all the objects in 3D. That has always been available. You can now do this functionality in 2D views. So I guess it helps to put 2D instructional data down as well as 3D instructional data down on your sheets. You can actually tag all the displaced elements in a 3D view as well, and those tags actually stay with those entities. So if you were to move those entities, the tags will move with them. This should be very interesting to see. Multi-leader tagging enhancements have also been improved again. You can select multiple elements and generate a single tag for all of them. Tab and or window selection. Dedicated commands to control the visibility of individual tag leaders. And then snap and adjust tag leaders individually or simultaneously. So this should be an interesting set of new multi-leader commands to help you give better information on how to tag content. Here in this picture, it's a good example because you've got rebar and you've got tons of individual rebar that have to be tagged, and this would be a good way to display that data and notate that data. Additional taggable categories have now been introduced as well. So now columns that are architectural columns, entourage objects, fascias, gutters, roof soffits, handrails and top rails, pads, ramps and wall sweeps, as well as model group tags and Revit link tags are now taggable. So obviously they're going to give you the tag family that's associated with the category, and you can go ahead and start tagging those if you need to as well. Page order finally in PDF export and printout. So prior, in 2022, you can export a PDF, which was great because we didn't have that functionality before. But unfortunately, you had no way to control the order of the sheets. So now you can customize the page orders via browser organization, sheet number, or manual order. You can save your set to how you want it to print. You can drag and drop the sheets into whichever order you choose. So they're trying to make it much easier for you to export the PDF but have control of how that exported PDF and those sheets are created. Control your patterns with family parameters. So now the fill patterns that you're working with, you can actually parameterize those, and then you can change those fill patterns via that capability. So this should be interesting for you to do. You can just select it and go to the family types window or the instance or type property and change that fill pattern. Swap views on a sheet. So this is interesting. Prior, for you to remove a sheet, put on another sheet, you had to expand the sheet in the project browser, left click and hold that view and drag it away from that sheet and onto another sheet. And it will allow you to do that. So now they've adjusted it so that when you select the viewport, you'll get the contextual tab in the ribbon, and it allows you to pick a different view, and it will basically swap one view for another as long as you have that capability. Okay, so there may be a view on another sheet already, and you don't want that sheet, you don't want that view on the other sheet to disappear. This list most likely will give you a drop down of all the views that are not on a sheet, and you can swap the one that you already have on the sheet with one that is not. So you have contextual panel and new positioning functionality. You have view placement control within the viewport, positioning parameter. View list is searchable and filters the list of all compatible views. And it will alert you if you attempt to place the same view on a sheet twice. So yes. Project browser icon for views on sheets. This is a nice little feature because you can visibly see automatically what views are already placed on a sheet by a little box that's filled. And if it's not filled, it's not on a sheet. You can also obviously disable this functionality if you want to. But the solid fill icon shows that the view is placed on a sheet. The empty icon shows the view is not placed on a sheet. And then a half-filled icon is for those schedules that are partially on a sheet. Because if you have a schedule that's really long and you break it into 2 or 3 sub-sheets views, like you can do in 2022, one of those sections of the schedule can be placed on one sheet and another can be placed on another sheet. And then the third portion may not even be placed yet. So therefore you would get the half-filled icon. So this is a nice enhancement as well. And that's it for this modified PowerPoint presentation. I know there are a ton more of features and functionality. It would just take too long to go through with PowerPoint presentation. And then as for the videos, I'm only going to make the videos of the ones that I thought were very, very interesting, that is usable by majority of the people that are out there. And again, as always, you can always reach out to me if you want the videos that are point specific of the ones that were not listed. And also if you have anything special you want me to put together. But look forward to those point-specific enhancements in Revit 2023 as individual videos as soon as I have time. As always, thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.